everybody and welcome back to the Swish Family Robertson. I have debated doing this video for some time and I decided to go ahead with it because it may help somebody out there who's having a similar issue and is having some anxiety around removing Facebook from their phone. I have an Android phone, it's a Samsung S9, and one of the recent software updates yielded a type of little app that came up once a week, or notification that came up once a week, that showed me how much time I was spending on my phone and what I was spending that time on whilst on my phone. And you know, I just kind of closed that window whenever it came up, but one week I was particularly disturbed because this is really, it's just still mind-blowing. One week the notification came up to show me how much time I was spending on various different platforms or apps on my phone, and basically it told me that I had spent 11.5 hours on Facebook that week. 11.5 hours. That's more than a whole working day. I mean, most working days are what, 8 hours? 11.5 hours is a ridiculous amount of time to be spent literally just scrolling on a phone. And I can't say that 11.5 hours had been spent doing marketing for my blog or marketing for my business. You know, there had been some of that, but for most of that time, I cannot tell you what content I had been looking at. That's 11.5 hours of my week where I could have been doing something else that I tell myself I don't have time to do. Now remember, we all have the same amount of hours as people who do great things with their time. We all have the same amount of hours as Richard Branson, as Marie Curie had. We all have the same amount of hours as Einstein had. They did fantastic, wonderful things with their time. And what do I do with my time? Spend 11.5 hours on Facebook, literally mindlessly scrolling. That just blew my mind. So I thought what I would do is I wouldn't delete Facebook from my phone. I would just move the icon from the home screen to somewhere else on one of the other pages where my apps are kept. And I thought to myself that that would deter me from going on Facebook mindlessly. No, it didn't. It didn't. I went looking for it and then I fell down the rabbit hole again. And I realized to myself that I was addicted to Facebook. Addicted to mindlessly scrolling through other people's highlights, through scrolling through memes that are just really a bunch of silliness half the time, scrolling through other people's moans and rants and miseries, and scrolling through groups where most of the content didn't interest me. I realized that I was addicted to something that was easily controllable. So I deleted Facebook from my phone. I haven't removed myself from Facebook because I do have a blog that I need to promote. I find that I now allow myself to go onto Facebook on my laptop, and I find that generally I go on there with a plan. Like I'm going to promote the new blog posts I've done, and then I'm coming off. And I don't spend more than 10 to 15 minutes on Facebook at one time anymore. The other thing I've noticed since I deleted Facebook from my phone was how much of a time thief Facebook was for me. Because 11.5 hours spent doing nothing really. What would you do if you had an extra 11.5 hours in a week? I found myself doing a lot more reading. I found myself doing things that I hadn't had a chance to do or hadn't had time to do because I was spending so much time on Facebook. I found myself, instead of rushing to get dinner on the table, I found myself enjoying the process of cooking dinner because I wasn't mindlessly scrolling. I found myself enjoying TV programs I hadn't enjoyed before, or had always thought, oh, I'd like to watch that, but oh well, I don't have time for that. I found myself sitting outside, and even though it's been cold, I've been sitting outside with a cup of tea and just enjoying nature. Facebook was a real time thief for me, and it was robbing me of something else. It was robbing me of my joy, because I love reading. I love cooking, I love baking, I love being outside and with a cup of tea and just enjoying nature, enjoying the sound of the birds, watching the leaves on the trees. It's a joy for me. Another thing I noticed about Facebook, now that I'm away from Facebook for the most part, is that I was comparing myself to other people without even realizing that I was doing it. Because let's face it, nobody puts on Facebook photographs of their messy living room. Nobody puts pictures on Facebook of how untidy their bathroom is. Everyone posts their highlights on Facebook, their highlight reels of the day they spent out, the things they did, and it becomes a sort of a photograph album, really, of what they've done and where they've been and the fun they've had, which is wonderful, and it's a fantastic memory. Facebook, I think, it's an awful place for comparing yourself to other people without even realizing you're doing it, and without being grateful for who you are and what you have in your life, because you're always looking at what the Joneses have and how they are living their lives and what they're enjoying in their lives, and not being grateful for what you have because you're too busy comparing yourself to other people unconsciously. I'm looking around me and I'm realizing how grateful I am and how lucky I am for the things that I do have in my life. The last thing I really don't miss about Facebook is some of the toxicity. I'm a member of quite a few groups on Facebook. I just found that in so many of the groups there was so much negativity. Somebody would put a post on about a book they enjoyed, and then there would be a few posts about, a few comments of people saying, oh, they really enjoyed that book, and then ere long there was always somebody that had to lower the tone, somebody who had to moan and complain, and before you knew it, then was farting words and there was an argument. There were so many people in a lot of the groups complaining about every single little thing. Is it just me, or cue rant? There was so much complaining about the government, about scientists, literally posts tearing other human beings apart, from how they look, to what they say, to how they speak. I just found some of the Facebook groups to be so toxic. Unintentionally, I think people posted things on there saying, hey, look what I made today, and then someone just going and ripping it to shreds. And I think it's very indicative of the kind of mindset that a lot of us are in during this time in the world. And I just found myself leaving Facebook once I had closed down the app, feeling flat, feeling disgruntled, feeling unhappy with myself, unhappy with my life, unhappy with my lot in life, and feeling down, feeling flat. And yet I couldn't stop myself from going on and looking at it the next day. There was just no point. I found that Facebook was contributing to low mood, and yet there was something I could do about it. It was my fault that I was going on there and letting it bring my day down. And I realized to myself it had to stop. So I deleted the Facebook app off my phone. Have I died? Clearly not. Have I suddenly become disconnected from the world? Clearly not. Nothing bad is going to happen if you decide to delete Facebook off your phone. You can still, like I do, go onto your laptop or your computer and go and do, your business marketing and things like that for your business. Or you can decide, I'm going to set a timer and I'm going to go onto the computer and go on Facebook for half an hour, and when the timer goes off, I'm getting off Facebook. I just find that since I've been away from Facebook, I feel more content. I feel more upbeat, more grateful with my life and what I have. While I enjoy going on Facebook, catching up with friends if I need to, I find that I'm limiting myself with the amount of time that I'm on. And it's probably been one of the best things I've ever done. Probably one of the best things I've ever done. So I really challenge you to think about your Facebook habits. Think about your social media habits and how much time you're spending on your phone. All the time you're busy doing this, you're not doing this. You're not talking to people face to face. You're not talking to your family. You're choosing not to read that book. You're choosing not to get on with that project that you've been wanting to finish for ages. It's a choice. Facebook is a choice. You do not have to spend hours a day on Facebook in order to live a happy life. There's my revelation. There's my Facebook revelation. And I really challenge you to have a look at your Facebook habits and see where you're spending your time and see if that time is serving you. And if it is, great. If it isn't, maybe it's time to make a change. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss new uploads. I'm going to be doing, I've got quite a lot of content planned actually for the next few months. So stay tuned and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.